Alrighty guys, as you can bring us another Dragon Ball Legends ToP guide video. This is going to be the guide for Season 10, and as always, there will be timestamps in the description down below to get you to the best teams to use, to what you need to know before starting ToP Season 10, and for the new characters, which is only 2 of them, right, for this season. So that being said, let's go right into the best teams to use, and the first team is going to be androids. Alright, so we have the androids right here, and this is typically, I have 2 setups right here, right? So I have a setup right here on the right hand side of the screen from the rank 1 player, and this is the setup that I typically go for right here. So let's go ahead and talk about replacements and stuff like that, right? Because I think that's important to know, as this team is very star reliant / Zenkai reliant, right? I want to point that out there, especially like right now, because even though like this unit, for example, I have this red android 18 who is only 6 stars, right? She's only 6 stars, and you know, some people might think about like 6 stars is actually a lot though, right? Isn't it? Well, no, she actually gets creamed pretty badly, so that's why I always have to kind of like run this setup right here where Android 16 is constantly protecting her, right? So, but let's talk about some of the other units that we have right here. You can either copy this setup that I have going on, or you can copy the rank 1 players, right? Because obviously he has a lot more stars. I think ToP 17 is extremely good, and just having more Zenkais just built up on there as such that he does with the Zenkai cell, right? It's always something good to just beef up your team even more. He's going to get a lot of points, but usually what I like to do when looking for filler units is I like to filter by tier Z in that specific tag for androids, right? And look down the list and see who you got. Like specifically for my team, this guy could be a good contender for a red, right? He actually has a decent kit, this Fusion Android 13, especially if you do have him at a higher star level, right? You keep going down the list, and for example, say you do not have the blue 21 for whatever reason, even though she's free to play, this Cell, who is also free to play, is not bad either. Like honestly, even though his Z ability isn't good, it's only 28% to element blue. The unit overall is pretty durable and stuff like that. I honestly don't think he's a bad choice at all, and he also has a buff against androids, so say if the field has a lot of androids, you actually might get some use out of them. And as always, like I preach in every one of these videos, is dip into tier S, right? Dip into tier S, don't be scared. I have 2 units right here on my Android team that I would dip into tier S for, right? It's this Android 21 blue and the Android 21 purple. You can even see on the rank 1 player, he does have the Android 21 blue and the Zenkai Cell, who are both in tier 2. Right, so that's something that you heavily want to consider doing. You don't want to just spam your team with all Z tier characters at the cost of having a really well built team. Alright, for the next team that we're going to go ahead and talk about is going to be the Minion Squad. So this is the exact team that I was running for last season, and it barely got me through. I still am going to go ahead and die on this hill and saying that Minions is the best free-to-play team for ToP, right? As you can see right here, I'll put up an image, is that I was able to barely make it in at rank 4,900 and something. I did die a single time, and even though I did die a single time, I still was able to make it all the way to the end right here. So again, I have the rank 35 player right here on the right hand side. This is the Minion Squad he's using, and let's talk about some of the replacements that I have right here. Personally, I don't think that Ultra Goku is the best unit in the world, but I could see that I was kind of getting farmed by yellow units, right? Because as you can tell, there's a lot of purple units. You got the purple Pool, you got the purple Ginyu, so that I can see why he wants to use the Ultra Goku, and that actually could be a smart play in the long run. I would say replacements as far as like not the actual Pool squad themselves, not the minion force, but if you want to replace one of the other 3 with this guy right here, this EX Goku, this EX Namek Saga Goku, he actually does have a decent Z ability, even at low stars, 20% to episode Frieza Saga base strike and blast defense, but this is the kicker, he heals. He heals, so at the start of the second turn, allies in range restores health by 5%. He is your healer. This actually could be extremely meta for Namek Saga teams going forward, for Frieza Saga teams going forward, right? Especially if you do have a pull dive him at 2 stars, I might actually invest in this guy to see how well he does as a healer later on in some later ToP seasons once I get him up to a comfortable amount of stars, so that's just 6 stars or higher. And then another addition that you guys have, we do have this filtered by tier Z, is the LF Frieza, right? The LF Frieza, he's not actually in the Frieza Saga, but hold on, let me go ahead and pull him up real quick. Alright, so now we're in the Frieza Force tag, again, still in Z tier, right? You have this LF Frieza right here. And especially if you guys have him Zenkai'd, I definitely would recommend just throwing him on there just to have an extra Zenkai on there just to be even more so beefy, right? Even more so beefy. That's pretty much the only replacements though. Another thing to keep in mind is that these units are all Z tier. I think except for like Ultra Goku, I think all of these units are Z tier, right? Yeah, so when we pull up Ultra Goku, he does reside in S tier, but that's still more than okay, right? Like I said, don't be completely afraid of running S tier units. The only thing with this team is that you do have to be really careful. You have to be extremely strategic, and by strategic, I mean you have to know what fights to choose, how you're going to approach things and stuff like that, because you could easily find yourself taking a lot of damage with this team. So be very, very cautious. Alright, the next team that I wanted to go ahead and talk about is going to be GT. So I have, once again, I have both teams up here right here. I have my variation of GT and then this guy's variation of GT, who is at rank 62, right? Rank 62, and look at his GT. He doesn't really have a completely... Like, everyone's not all 14 stars, right? He doesn't have all of the Zenkais right here. He might be taking a lot of damage and stuff like that, but he has the right idea, right? So Nova Shenron and Ice Shenron are both phenomenal units in ToP because they are able to mitigate attacks. Nova having basically the bubble shield, and then Ice being able to go ahead and counter strikes when he does get attacked by one, as well as the other units and stuff like that, right? And so you can see right here, majority of these units, well, I would say like 5 of these units right here are on my side of things, are in Z tier, right? But once again, you go into tier S, and definitely pick some of these units. The one critique that I have about this guy's team more than anything is that I would 100% always have Super Baby 2 on your GT team. That is going to be your designated healer, and if I honestly would go as far as to say he's actually a really good tank as well, right? He's going to be healing GT in the block to the left and to the right of him. You're going to be able to keep people alive a lot longer, right? But overall, I think this could be a very, very sustainable team. You definitely don't have a lot of options. I think that's the biggest takeaway here. The biggest issue is that you don't have a whole lot of options. Same with like LOE and stuff like that, right? And then another thing that really irritates me is that this Gogeta is always like an A tier. I have no clue why he's always an A tier, but that's just where he is. I think it has to do something with like a popularity or something like that. But yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as going to tier A. I mean, maybe if you have a really high star Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you would. But for the most part, I like to stick around tier Z and tier S. Gogeta is not a make it or break it unit. Alright, so the next team that we have on the list is going to be LOE. So this is my LOE team. It's completely and utterly garbage, right? It's utterly garbage for me on my end, but if you look right here on the right hand side, we got Fire Akuma coming in at rank number 5 with his own LOE team. He has a lot of stars, he has a lot of Zenkais and stuff like that. It's easy to say that he's going to perform well in ToP, but take away most of the stars, as long as you have the Zenkais, I think this is a really solid team, right? As long as you have like the LF Zenkai Frieza, Zenkai Cooler, the newest LF Frieza, right? The yellow one, right? But let's go ahead and talk about some replacements. So I know a lot of you guys are not going to have this yellow Zenkai Frieza, right? Because he's not necessarily the best Zenkai in the world. But immediately I can go ahead and offer you this guy instead, is the OG Final Form Frieza Full Power. Again, if he mitigates a Blast Arts, right? Doesn't matter what HP percentage he's at. If he gets hit with the Blast card, he's going to use his green card on it. Not only that, it continues. He also gets a blue card off of that. So it's an easy no-brainer to go ahead and be doing that. But other than that, these guys don't really have a lot of replacements. I mean, you can go ahead and use my setup if you guys do have the Zenkais, if you guys do have the stars. I do like Chilled on here. I'm not going to lie. I do like Chilled because of his Z ability. He gets max base health to ToP to turn it into power. Your units, your LOE units, of course. And, that health is such a massive aspect in ToP, right? He might be a little bit squishy and stuff like that, but he also has some good support. He puts debuffs on the enemy team, and he also buffs all these squares right here. He buffs 5 squares ahead of him, below him, to the left, and to the right of him, which is not bad at all. And on a special move arts hits, he actually inflicts can attack for 1 turn, which is kind of a little bit more of a niche kind of like ability, right? Because you're not always going to be popping blue cards every single fight, but it's still nice nonetheless, decent at the very least, right? And so this is a squad that I've been constantly seeing grow and grow within ToP, and now at this point in time you always see them in the ladder. Definitely a great option if you have invested into them. This is definitely, I would probably say this is the most premium. Right next to androids, this is the most premium team in here, right? Because I feel like a lot more people have a stacked androids team than they do an LOE team. All right, for the final team that I wanted to go ahead and show you guys before we move on to the next chapter of the video is going to be Sagas from the movie. So once again, I do have a team over here, right here, rank 71. And he has his own team. So let's go through his team real quick. He has really good units on here. He has a lot of stars. The one critique that I do have about his team is that he doesn't have double Bojacks. That's the one thing that I do have on my side of things right here. And I actually used this exact same setup in a couple seasons ago, and it was able to guarantee me into the top 6K. And keep in mind, when I had used this team initially, my Goku was only like 3 stars or something like that. So now he's 6 stars. I could see this team performing a lot better. So now let's go to talk about replacements. So like I had already said before, the Bojacks. The Bojacks I think are must-haves, and so you do have the purple Bojack in D tier, and the red Bojack doesn't fall too far behind in S tier, so he's in S tier right here. And honestly, this Red Fury Broly, he's not bad. I think he can take a hit. And he has some decent buffs, right? So that's exactly what I have him. He buffs the blocks 2 blocks below him. That's why I have him in this kind of formation right here, right? This red Bojack, he buffs the 3 blocks, the column ahead of him, right, or the row ahead of him. And then, you know, so there are a lot of buffs going around. This green metal cooler, I've raved about him time and time again. Amazing unit. This is the one unit that I would probably replace. This is Great Sandman 1 and 2. I mean, he has a good Z ability. I'm not going to lie, 28% to both defenses. But he absolutely gets folded. So if you want to replace him, 100% be my guess. If you have this Janemba at high stars, I think this Janemba actually does perform well. He also eats blast cards, so he has a little bit of damage mitigation. And he heals himself, I do believe. Yes, so he does heal himself, which is pretty nice. He also inflicts the enemy with can attack, so he can be very disruptive. Very good for your team if you want an extra red on there. You know, green Princess Trunks. I feel like Princess Trunks is a little bit very much on the mediocre side. I wish that a lot of people will more people will talk about this guy right here. This guy is phenomenal, and you can actually see on the other side of things on this team right here, the rank 71 player, he actually has this purple Vegeta on his team at a high stars. I only have him at a low stars, so I don't really get to take advantage of him, but he is extremely good, very tanky, heals a lot. And so he's something that you definitely want to consider. He also has the yellow Gohan, another amazing unit. You have a ton of options on Sagas from the movies. This is probably like one of the best tags that you can use right here. A very versatile tag at that too. As you can see right here, I have one Zenkai on my team. On my team, that's completely free to play. And on this guy, he only has a Zenkai 1 red metal cooler. He does have that Zenkai 7 blue Broly, but technically you can get him from the USTR shop, right? You have a lot of flexibility with this team, a lot of survivability, and you also have a healer with this Revival Gohan if you do have him. I know he's an LF unit and stuff like that. So that's pretty much my 5 teams right there. Some honorable mentions, I do see a lot of hybrids going on this season. Hybrids, you got to be careful because there's a lot of movie tiles. We'll get into that later, but obviously Goku is very much a real threat. Alright, so moving on to what you need to know before starting ToP Season 10. I think the biggest takeaway from this, the biggest thing that you guys need to know is be super careful of double Bojack teams, or even just Bojack teams in general, whether it be 1 Bojack or 2 Bojacks being the higher threat level, because they get guaranteed blues on the second turn if not dealt with immediately, right? If not dealt with immediately. It's just really tough to go against this team, I feel like, just because having both of those Bojacks there, like, you might be able to take out one, but what if you can't take out both of them on turn 1, right? So this is how you have to deal with it if you do take on this fight. So if you choose to land on this tile, I would say focus red Bojack first, because he has the higher key restore speed, meaning that he's going to attack first. He's going to attack in the higher order. right? He's going to be one of the first ones to attack on that second turn. And then after you kill the red Bojack, then start attacking the purple Bojack, because he pretty much has a relatively low key restore speed, and so he's going to be getting his blue off at the end of that second turn, right? So that's pretty much how I approach this. But typically, you just want to be careful of this team, right? There's a lot of movie Sagas teams out there right now. Alright, another team that I have to go ahead and talk about is these regeneration teams. There's like I said, a lot of regeneration teams as well. And so Bootanks especially, there's actually quite a couple of Bootanks fights on this board, so please be aware of him. I don't care how many times I have to say it in each video, Bootanks gets a blue card on the first turn, and he has a high key restore speed, so there's a very high chance that he's going to be able to pop his blue off before you're able to kill him at all. So definitely, I would avoid Bootanks unless you have like just a swarm of green units and stuff like that, right? He will super you turn 1, and it will hurt, especially if you have red units going up on the field. So just going through the board, there is a lot of like movies tiles, I would say, a lot of movies tiles. Like we have a mixture of movies and hybrids right here. Another team that I definitely have seen a lot is movies. There's hybrids and stuff like that. And then I would say in the second half of the field, there's a lot of regeneration tiles. So be aware of those 3 tags. Do with that information what you will. Lots of movie tiles, lots of hybrid tiles, and lots of regen tiles, right? So play around that knowledge. Use that knowledge to your advantage. And once again, I talked about this in my last video. This is a tile that I keep seeing pop up in almost every single season. If you're going to go land on this tile, I think this is a relatively easy tile to clear. You know, especially even at the 5th stage. But just target this yellow Gohan first, please. I'm begging you. If you target the other people first, this Gohan will get a blue card for every unit that you kill. For every ally of his that you kill, he will get a blue card. So target him first. The rest should be easy peasy. And the last thing I want to talk about, there's a lot of oddball stages that grant you low risk and high reward, right? So this is a 4/5 stage. You can see there's a lot of EX units on here. There's 2 EX units on here. It doesn't offer too much synergy within the team, right? And EX units are typically squishy and are typically at low stars within ToP, right? So they're not providing a lot to their teams anyways. So this is something you want to take advantage of, right? So there's teams like this. There are also teams like this. These are like really good examples of, you know, 4/5 stages, which are going to still give you a good amount of points and stuff like that, and are going to be relatively easy for clear. Basically going to be giving you a better opportunity to go ahead and heal up some of your lower health units and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for those. Alright, so that being said, let's move into the final segment of the video. It is going to be new characters. So let's go ahead and move on to DBZ space right here. It is going to be this Vegeta, this LF Vegeta. And let's go ahead and go into his kit. So he's a red unit. He's primarily for Saiyans and stuff like that. For Saiyans, powerful opponent, and Saiyan Saga. So he doesn't have, I don't think, I mean, he has a long kit. I'm not going to lie. He has a very long kit. And so at first glance, it's really good to see. But he has this ability that's kind of weird to me. On hit, if target is element blue, he gets 30% damage inflicted. I don't know if that's permanent for the rest of the fight and stuff like that. So that could be good. But it just feels weird that it's going to be on a blue. If it was on element yellow, I think it would be a lot better because obviously he is a red unit. He does have a buff against Sun Family in which he gets a damage cut by 10%, which is, it's alright, right? It's nice. It's 90% here and then another 20% damage cut here. But this is where I think he actually becomes really good. Is he gets a 50% to own special move gauge rate at the end of the first turn. So you're going to kind of like similar to the Ultra Vegeta. Every 2 fights you're pretty much going to be getting a blue card. And look at this. After receiving a strike or blast arts attack, he restores his health by 2%. 2%. And this one, I don't really like these abilities where you have to be below 50% HP. Right, because I think you don't really want to get below 50% HP in the first place, but you do get a damage buff and you get to upgrade your special move arts for free, which is alright, I suppose. But these 2 abilities right here make him really good. I think if you have him at high stars, he's going to be a mainstay on Saiyans, even in ToP. Alright, next we have Yajirobe. So I was really hoping, I feel like the EX ToP kits have actually been pretty decent, but this guy, I think he really falls short, and he could easily been a lot better, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at his kit. So at the start of the turn, according to number of enemies remaining, 6 enemies 40%, 5 enemies 50%, 4 enemies or less 70% to damage received. So every single enemy that gets killed, he's gonna get more, he's gonna get stronger in terms of strike damage, but he's gonna get weaker in terms of damage cut. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I do not like to see that at all. And at the start of the 3rd turn, if own health is below 50% or below, like I just said, I don't like these kind of abilities, he activates a special action. The special action gives him a guaranteed blue card with 40% damage stacked on top of it. If this was not 50% or below, it just on the start of the 3rd turn he gets a guaranteed blue card with all this, I think he would be a lot better. It would easily move him up a tier in my own eyes, right? But other than that, he's definitely not worth using. Yajirobe's a no-go. Vegeta is definitely someone that you want to invest in. So that being said, that's pretty much everything that I have for you guys for Season 10. And as always, if you guys have more questions, you guys have more team building questions and stuff like that, my Discord is in the description as well. I go on there frequently. Other people help out in terms of if you guys need more guidance in this kind of aspect and stuff like that. We're all just trying to get into the top 6K, trying to get that free CC, so we're working together to get there. That being said, if you guys enjoy the content, definitely let me know by leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.